We're right, we can start then. Don't need to wait for the live thing to come on, do we?
Richard will make it work, I think. Sorry, Rupert. It is.
Welcome everybody, welcome Madam Mayor, councillors, staff and the public. I'll declare this emergency meeting of Service Delivery Committee open and ask for no apologies. One from Councillor McMillan. All in thank you, Councillor Ellis, seconded. Councillor Malcolm, all in favour please say aye. Contrary, carried. Conflicts of interest. I don't really think I need to, but I am just saying that I have a son who is on the board of MHV. I've got no pecuniary interest whatsoever, but I'm just indicating that is the case. And Councillor Brown?
I also would be a user of the services of the Stockwater as being a farmer of the district. So, but I don't believe I have any pecuniary interest greater than any other member of the district.
No further declarations? Number one on the agenda is the revocation of the resolution passed on the 21st of March. Any discussion, or would somebody like to move? Councillor Revley?
Yeah, I'd quite happily move that after seeking all the clarifications around it. I believe I seconded the motion and voted the wrong way the other day. So to put things right, the Local Government Act, I'm quite happy to move this, we revoke that decision.
Councillor Price, is that it?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. One no. Want your vote recorded? No. We've got 4 other recommendations. After what happened the other day, I think it would be good to take them singly this time. So would somebody be prepared that we do the recommendations one at a time rather than a block? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'm happy for them to be taken one at a time, but first could we just have some questions?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're happy to do the resolutions one by one. Do you want to move that way?
Yes, we'll do that and then we'll go to questions.
Take them one by one.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Ronson. All in favour of that we take each question one at a time? All in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. First thing we can do is questions to... I will say that I have been talking to Richard and the CEO, and I have an alternative motion which I will be putting forward. But are there any questions to Richard at this stage? Councillor Brown.
I just have one, and one at the stage, and the resolution that I moved a week ago, I suppose it was, is deemed to be legally non-compliant, and we obviously, we don't want to be legally non-compliant. So my question is, have we had a legal opinion to say that we're non-compliant, or is it just the staff reading the rule book, so to speak?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we didn't go to the extent of getting a formal legal opinion. Our own reading of the resolution compared to the obligations that we feel Council has made it to us very, very clear that there was an inconsistency to be resolved, and so we didn't go to the extent of a legal opinion.
Supplementary.
No, I'm happy with the answer the CE's given.
Councillor Brown.
So am I, to be honest. It's now explained. Thank you.
Councillor Revley.
Yeah, the makeup of what's actually on our document here with the Central South Island Fish and Game Council, Fish and Bird doesn't show on that list. It's probably one that has a greater influence on what happens in our river with the bird life that's in there. So is a particular reason why you had that makeup of that?
Our desire or our intention was to have a group that met all the values and all the matters that need to be considered. And this particular recommendation suggested Fish and Game, but we have absolutely no preference or stake in a particular entity that is well placed to represent the ecological values under question.
Councillor Brown?
The question, ECAN is mentioned in the people who should be, or organisations that should be involved, and I'm just wondering what their role would be, with them being a regulator and a giver of consents for water. Are they a little bit early in the piece? Because this work is, a lot of the work is around actually physically delivering stock water and is already consented. So just wondering what part they would play being around the table. Certainly they'll need to play a part at some stage, but perhaps not right now.
Through Mr Chairman, we see ECAN's role in water across Canterbury as being fundamental to that organisation's very existence, and to have a conversation here or a working party to consider the future of some aspect of the delivery of water, that ECAN should be there in the room from the start. And if there are aspects to the development of the trial that they don't have a strong view on, I'm sure they will let the others do the legwork. But our strong view is that to not include them in the manner in which the trial is formulated and designed and then implemented and monitored would be a miss.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you very much. Through you to the Chief Executive. Mr Chief Executive, am I also right that by having ECAN at the table, they can fly the flag early if there are any potential issues or problems, and save a lot of time and energy in circumventing any misadventure on our behalf?
Indeed, and we would say that's true of every party on the working group, that everyone is in it together, and at some point their perspective needs to be weighed up and considered and taken into account, and if that prevents something going off track further on in the process, then that would be a valuable thing to learn early on. Yeah.
Councillor Everly?
Because in amongst this will be a variation to the irrigation company, which at the moment hasn't got a stock delivery inside their consent at this stage. So that'll be you'll need them at the table at some stage because you'll be applying to them. So at this point, would that be a conflict of interest on their part?
Absolutely not. We're trying to get a group of people and organisations together who have a stake in a well-run, well-managed, well-planned trial, and ECAN, in our view, should be part of that.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, through the chair. If there's no more questions, I'm quite
Yeah,
happy to
no,
move.
we're still in
yes,
question
that's
mode.
fine. I just want to make sure.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, just still thinking of ECAN. Which department of ECAN, because they have several departments, would you think would be at the table? And we think that they should be there. What if they deemed that they shouldn't be there? Would we listen to their advice?
I can answer round the first way. If they don't want to come, then we can't make them. So, and it will be true of any party that we invite to be part of the working party. So if they deem they shouldn't be there and don't come, then we will plough on without them. I doubt that will be the outcome of an invitation, but I guess it's possible. Thinking about the first part of your question, I would probably refer to people who know ECAN in a little more detail than I, and see whether Richard or Neil or someone could answer that more accurately than I.
Through you, Mr Chair, given I'm likely to be the person at least drafting the letter of invitation, my intention was to address the letter to the Chief Executive, explain the purpose of the working party and allow him to exercise his judgment as to who would be the most appropriate people.
Councillor Rawlinson?
Thank you. Just a question, if and I spoke the other day about MVH. So if we have irrigation companies who are not on there, could this group have the power to co-opt somebody from MVH and Acton, should they feel the need to?
The terms of reference don't contemplate that they would be co-opting other members, but it may be sensible from time to time at the committee and the chairman's discretion to perhaps invite people. But if that co-opting, if your intention of discussing co-opting was to have them as a full part of the process, my recommendation would be to address that now in the makeup of the committee rather than adopting this and knowing full well that you want to co-opt someone for the life of the working party. You may as well put them on now.
Thank you, and I brought that subject up because, you know, they're both major players in this field of putting water down, stock water down pipes or races.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. Something that occurred to me over the last week was that if there was a desire, as there was a week ago, for every irrigation company to be represented, perhaps it would be better if we asked the irrigation companies to get together and nominate 2 representatives. Is that a possibility?
From officers' point of view, that is clearly a way of forming this company, if that's how you so felt.
No further questions? Sorry, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Is it correct that the 2 that have been nominated do have the bigger existing piped network, so that's why you were looking at using them as part of the trial? Because that's all this is at this stage, is a trial. When it rolls out, that's when you'll start to involve these other groups. But at this stage, we're talking about a trial to see if this works. If it proves not to work, it might not actually go anywhere. So that's why we're looking, but I believe these 2 have the biggest existing piped network, so they're the most logical ones to use, if you like, for the trial.
Yes, that's true through you, Mr. Chairman. We were trying to balance a manageable size of the working group with who would have perhaps the biggest stake in it or the easiest way of contributing to the trial, or those are sort of clumsy words, but yes. So the 2 irrigation companies that we recommended are based on the extent of their piped networks.
Councillor Everly.
You're only looking to do a trial, so I would imagine you've got enough people to do the trial. These other companies can come in and do the things. The letter pipe work is nearly as big as I'd imagine both those 2, but you're only looking to do a trial. We're not looking to complete the job, so the sooner we can get an answer and get moving on actually doing something, the better. So I think you've got enough there to do it.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Just noting that the Surface Water Strategy contemplated trial or trials. So the working group, one of their tasks in trying to examine how this work gets underway will be to answer the fundamental question of whether it's one trial or a number of trials.
Councillor Price. No, I'm still in question mode.
Okay. I wondered if I could ask Richard to just remind us what was the reason why Forest and Bird, who were originally in the terms of reference, why were they taken out when it came to the recommendation last week?
The reason that Forest and Bird were taken out was at that stage we were looking for a group of 6, and I've had an opportunity to reflect on the debate last time, and I think in terms of where we are today, I'm less hung up on 6 or 7. I gave advice based on a preference for Forest and Bird over Fish and Game. Interesting, I've had some conversations with Councillor Wilson, and you can make other arguments that Forest and Bird would be better because Fish and Game's interests are in exotic fish, whereas the biodiversity interests in the water races are actually around the likes of the mudfish and native invertebrates and so on.
No more questions. Anyway, as chair, I'd like to move No, he wants to move a motion. You got a question?
I was going to move the
No,
motion.
I've got a motion I want to move as chair. It states that the committee approve the membership structure of the Water Race Network Advisory Group, comprising 2 representatives of the Ashburton District Council, 1 representative from each of the following organisations: Aoraki Environmental Consultancy, Ashburton Lyndhurst Irrigation Limited, Bar Hill Chertsey Irrigation Limited, MHV Water Limited, Environment Canterbury, Forest and Bird Ashburton Branch. Have I got a seconder?
I'll second the motion.
I will explain perhaps why after consultation, why I've chosen these. Obviously, our Iraqi Environmental Consultancy we've got to be part of it. We've got 2 irrigation companies. MHV, even though they haven't got as much pipe as the other 2, they are the biggest scheme in the district and cover the biggest area. They've also got highly sophisticated open race systems with telemetry gear, and if we are looking at piping irrigation water, we're still going to have open races for biodiversity, and their expertise in telemetry open race systems could be valuable. Forest and Bird, I think, as Councillor Price has already said, Fish and Game to me are trout and salmon, and South Canterbury Climatisation Society and Fish and Game have been engaged in this district with the Zone Committee and the lower drains, the Ashburton River, the Hines River, the Rangatata and the Rakaya. Forest and Bird Ashburton will have input into biodiversity, mudfish possibly, invertebrates, butterflies, bees with the water. That's why I've picked them as, well, I thought they were a more of a localised organisation that could have input. So I'll open the motion for comments. Councillor Brahm?
Oh, sorry. I'm just thinking on a moment.
Fair enough. Councillor Brown?
I'll support the motion, and in doing so, agree with the MHV being added in, and for those exact reasons that you gave. They cover 58,000 hectares of this district with their irrigation system. They have piped systems and they have open race systems, and you're correct, they also have it, the bulk of it or all of it is telemetered, and they can open and shut gates and control it very efficiently. They need to be there. Agree with the Forest and Bird also to look after the little creatures out there, and agree with that. Still happy to have Environment Canterbury there as long as it's to the right department, and they'll all add value. I'm sure they'll all add value, and Aoraki Environmental, yes, they need to be there because we need to have them there. So I'm happy with the makeup of the group and support the motion.
Councillor Price?
Well, this strikes me as a replay of last Thursday. If you want to avoid the impression that you're trying to stack the group with irrigation companies, I think we should have both Fish and Game and Forest and Bird. But my impression is that's what's happening, is we're going back to last Thursday's decision.
Could Councillor Price tell us what the definition of stacking the committee means?
By making sure there's enough irrigation companies on the committee, along with a sympathetic councillor who will then
Councillor
have the majority
Price,
of the
please.
votes.
We haven't
Sorry,
appointed...
I was asked to explain my thinking. I'm giving you my thinking.
We haven't appointed the council representatives to this committee yet. That is our next stage, so please refrain from stacking the committee and with a compliant councillor.
Sorry, the document...
Councillor Price, will you withdraw that statement, please? We haven't appointed... We haven't appointed a council representative yet. To accuse a councillor of being compliant with the irrigation companies, I think is not a fact.
The document states who the council appointees will be.
We haven't,
Yes, we haven't decided on it, but it's stated in the document.
we haven't passed that motion yet. We're on just the section of appointing who they are, and at this stage it says 2 council appointees. Any further, Councillor Rollinson?
Thank you. I do agree with your proposal, but I asked the question, what will it cost to have Fish and Game in there? I think if they're there, they have an opportunity to express a view, and if they're happy with it as, they won't cause any issues. I think, you know, there's no cost to us to have them there, so why not? Other than that, I totally agree with your proposal.
I was mindful of what Richard's said. He liked to keep it as tight as possible. So, but I mean, Councillor Brahm, if the committee wants to add them, they're quite free to add them. Councillor Brahm?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I still like the recommendation, as it stands. Those changes is the second time that it happens in the meeting, and I'm getting a bit like Councillor Price on the other side. It doesn't feel right. I think the way it was, the committee, the way it was put together by Richard, I thought was well thought out, representing the biggest part of this town or this district. We all need water. We can't do without it. So I don't think a group who uses the water most, and it's irrigation guys, should be having a bigger voice in that.
Madam Mayor?
Mr Chairman, through you, could I just seek clarification from Councillor Brahm? The report we have before us was prepared by Chief Executive REAC. When you say you support Richard's suggestion, are you meeting the report from last week?
And also what is standing in the point 2 there. Sorry, yeah, the combination of the two. So the report is at standing, the one we've got standing here, 3.1.2.2, done by those two gentlemen there. That's the one I still like to see.
Councillor Brown?
Councillor Brown said that the irrigators will be the biggest users of this water. This water is for the stock, and the irrigation companies just happen to have the infrastructure for delivering it. We are going to look at a trial to use their infrastructure to deliver the water to the farmers, which is consented for them, to deliver it in a pipe or an open ray system a lot more efficiently than what we are doing it now. So it's not the irrigators. We are using the irrigators' systems that they have for delivery of this. So the irrigators will not benefit out of this at all. It's for the beneficiaries of the stock water users.
Councillor Urquhart?
Yeah, listening to the comment, if Fish and Game was involved, do we just have a local Fish and Game? If you have the Ashburton branch of the Forest and Bird, do we have an Ashburton branch of Fish and Game as well?
I think we're administered by South Canterbury.
Central South Island.
Councillor Everly will know, which is stationed in
Temuka, yeah, where the northern boundary comes this side of the Rakaia.
Councillor Everly?
Yeah, this is. I like what you've come up with here, because in amongst this, we haven't got a lot of money. This council has got a lot of money to do this job. In amongst that, those irrigation companies, they'll have something worked out that they could do a trial for us reasonably easy. They also know all the way around the district to see whether, once you've done this trial, they'll also be doing some work. Well, I know for a fact they've done most of this work already. They'll be able to bring that to it. And I see it as a 5-3 voting. Even if all the irrigation companies wanted something, all the irrigation companies want now is to get on and do some of this work. So I see that. And it's only could deliver. We as a council would be paying big dollars to deliver to the handful of people that are out there. We would have to buy the water off them and set an infrastructure up close to where their infrastructure is. So this is the best we can get out of what's been there, because there is a lot of pipe in the ground, and even the farmers at the moment, the water race runs past, many of them are fully piped now. They would hook to their system very cheaply. The only thing the council would have is our stock water couldn't. And the option of having those people on the ground, when we finish, well, we need to be talking to those companies, whether the people are going to become part of Ashburton ratepayer group, or they become a shareholder and get delivered water from an irrigation company. So those talks need to be had with all those companies, and this has got a finite, as I understand it. It's going to be done before we get to October, so I don't think there's any damage can be done from anyone.
Councillor Malcolm?
Yes, I actually believe we need Fish and Game on there too. Our stock water intakes are in appalling condition, right? We promised that we would have fish screens in. They're not. And so we need these guys in there for that reason, to be monitoring what we're doing. But also, if we don't go with irrigation companies, and I agree with you, Councillor Wilson, to have the other irrigation company in there, but we need their water supply. We need their intakes, right? And we need compliant intakes, and they've got them.
Madam Mayor?
I have a question, Mr Chairman. So, in regards to a question that Councillor Price asked earlier about a willingness by irrigation companies to work together, have you any awareness of whether there is a willingness? Do we know if there is?
Anything is possible, but we make the decision as the organiser of the stock water system. Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Once this trial is done, and where's it reporting back to, and then before it proceeds into the real world, as opposed moves on from a trial into something that's actual, does that come back to council, and how that works in with our surface water strategy and all those sorts of things? So, yeah, so at some stage we'll get to see obviously the results of this trial, so there's a definite outcome from it. And
Absolutely. The trials are part of the surface water strategy, which talked about the desirability of closing water races. Not necessarily all of them, because of the values that need to be assessed as part of the trial, but an amount of them. So this is a council project. The trial needs to be set up, needs to be evaluated. The decision making is council's.
Supplementary.
I could support your motion if you were prepared to add Fish and Game to the list, because Councillor Malcolm did raise a good point. Our fish screens are need considering in amongst this trial as we move forward.
Well, I'm in your hands. You can move an amendment. Anybody's entitled to move an amendment. Councillor Lovett?
I would probably move an amendment for your solution and adding on Fish and Game to it. It's only one more group, one more person, otherwise we're just going to keep going round and round in circles.
I'll second that.
Second that. Now, we're now discussing the amendment. It's the present 8 members plus Fish and Game. It'll be Fish and Game Central South Island. I guess. Councillor Brown?
It's open for debate, is it?
Yes.
Yep. I don't see the value Fish and Game will have in there, because the water that's going to be used for this trial will be coming through the RDR, which has got a fish screen which is consented, all but ineffective, but that's being worked on, and then water picked up out of the Ashburton through the RDR is fish screen consented. So I don't see having a need for Fish and Game there for this water race trial. Yes, for other parts of the surface water strategy, but not for this bit.
Councillor Reveley?
I totally agree with Councillor Brown. This is a trial in a small way. The fish screens are already in for the RDR. They're being approved. They're costing. This way here, we would move forward. I'd hate to think that we're going to be pulled up, put fish screens on to satisfy Fish and Game. At this stage, it's a small trial that just needs to be got on with, and it's a very short time frame in this one. So let's get on. Let's get on. I can't see any place for Fish and Game. I've been on Fish and Game twice, so I just don't see any point in continuing. We've got the people we need.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. So the purpose of this group is to investigate one or more trials. So am I right, Mr Chairman, that it could be more than one? It might not be small, and we're not sure how long this might go on for.
at this stage it says until it's complete, or unless, the option is until it's complete or the triennial elections. So, I mean, I think it depends on personnel too. If the personnel continue on after the election, or there may need to be a change after the election. That's the way I understand it. Councillor Price?
Thank you. I'd just like to refer you all back to the two of the questions that I asked last week. One was, is this a governance group or is this a technical group? And the answer to that was it's a governance group. And secondly, if you look at the terms of reference, which I also questioned, I questioned the purpose under the terms of reference, and it is to investigate one or more trials for delivery of stock water through irrigation company infrastructure to improve efficiency of water use, improve water quality, and better understand impacts on overall values. So if we're going to look at all of those things, and it is a governance group, not just a technical group to conduct a trial, a short-term trial, as has been claimed, then we might want to look back at that terms of reference and look at the original makeup of the advisory group, which has one irrigation company on it, and both Fish and Game and Forest and Bird.
It actually had two irrigation companies originally, yeah.
So the terms of reference has one irrigation company.
There's two there. There's two there.
Just perhaps I can clarify that point, Mr. Chairman. We accepted at the last meeting that the terms of reference was an error and was inconsistent with the recommendation. So if you accept that that error was genuinely made, then the recommendation was always that two irrigation companies would be on the advisory group.
No further discussion?
So,
Councillor Price?
Can I just, well, you could argue that an error was made in the recommendation equally as well.
Yes, but with the greatest respect, it was us that made the error, and so we know that the error was made in the terms of reference.
No further discussion. I'll put the amendment. The amendment is that Fish and Game Central South Island representative be added to the makeup of the Water Race Network Advisory Group. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Show of hands. All those in favour of the motion? Of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll declare the amendment passed. Yes, the amendment becomes a substantive motion. It will be the 8 that were in the motion plus Fish and Game. Any comments on the amended motion? Well, the amended motion will be, we approve the membership, which will be 2 from Ashburton District Council, 1 from Aoraki Environmental, 1 from Ashburton Lyndhurst Limited, 1 from Bar Hill Chertsey, 1 from MHV, Environment Canterbury, Forest and Bird Ashburton Branch, and Fish and Game representative from Central South Island. Central South Island Fish and Game. Quite happy. All in favour of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. The next section of the recommendation will be the terms of reference. Seeing we have elected 9 members to the advisory group, the recommendation, terms of reference will have to be changed from membership will be 8 members, and at the quorum will now be 5 members. A quorum is 50% plus 1.
Mr. Chairman, can
9
I
members,
just clarify?
yes.
So the terms of reference that was circulated, the changes that flow from the amended resolution just passed, there will now be 9 members.
That's right.
And we are adding MHV and Forest and Bird to the terms of reference in front of you.
With 9 will be 5.
And the quorum will be 5, yes.
Yes.
Clarification, the District Council has 2 members on there One is yourself, the other is Mr Guthrie, the assets manager. Does the assets manager get to vote or not? Does he have voting rights, as the other members do?
The committee hasn't yet considered who the representative should be. That's a motion still to be passed.
Do we decide that now, or do we, as terms of reference?
But my understanding is that you're working through them, that you've done 1, 2, and you're debating 3, but you haven't done 4 yet.
No, but
So-
the question is, there's going to be 2 council representatives. Do they both have votes?
Yes.
okay.
The intention of having 2 representatives, that they're full members of this advisory group.
Yes.
No?
No, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. So do we normally in our terms of reference identify who the chairperson is? And if so, should we do that as part of item 4 and do it in terms of reference?
No, it hasn't mentioned anywhere. I think they appoint their own chair. I would recommend that with. Somebody like to move number 3 in the recommendations with the modifications that it be 9 members and a quorum of 5.
Can I
Councillor Brown?
state the number of members? If 2 from the Ashburton District Council, 1 from Aoraki, 3, Ashburton Lyndhurst, 4, Central South Island Fish and Game, 5, Environment Canterbury, 6, Forest and Bird, 7, Fish and Game, got Fish and Game twice.
Well, where were we? Did somebody?
I was going to be happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. Moved by Councillor Lovett,
And I'll second it.
seconded by Councillor Rollinson.
Okay.
Discussion. Councillor Price?
We would also need to change this wording slightly where under membership where it says comprising 1 representative of each of the following, because there is the exception of ADC now having 2.
That's right.
No, if you look under membership, it says 7 members comprising 2 representatives of Ashburton District Council and 1 of each of the following organisations.
Are we looking at the terms of reference?
Yes, on Appendix 1.
Yeah. On Appendix 1, it says 6 members. So it's not 6 members.
Yes, we've got the resolution.
Sorry, I was looking at last week's one.
Yes. Councillor Bowell, have you got?
I was just trying to see also the Appendix 1, which is 6 members. So we're referring it now on the new agenda, not the previous.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
The terms of reference will, under membership, will read 9 members with the ones we've passed on number 2, and instead of 4 members quorum, it'll be 5 members quorum. No further comments. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, carried. Next recommendation, that the Chair of Service Delivery Committee and Asset Manager be appointed as Council's representatives on the Water Race Network Advisory Group. Madam Mayor?
Happy to move the recommendation, item 4, as recorded there. Councillor Wilson, you represent us on the Zone Committee and appreciate the work you do there as well, so happy to support that.
I'll happily second that.
Councillor Brown?
Clarification, both members have voting rights.
We see all of those 9 members as having an equal status on that advisory group.
Hopefully the advisory group will work like the Zone Committee and we don't get down to voting. We work as a collaborative group and discuss things and come up with a resolution that everybody's happy with. And I hope this group will be the same. It would be a sad story if it's a vote to do something that another part are unhappy with. So that's my idea of the way this group will work. Councillor Preveley?
I actually hope you do vote and give us some straight direction for our staff to work on. I do see the zone committee being just a little bit wishy-washy, and we want this to be very positive for our staff and the council to move on.
Madam, Councillor Ellis?
Thank you. Chairmanship of this group, is that covered under any of our terms of reference or in this motion we're moving now? Or will they appoint their own chair when they first meet?
The option is for you make a recommendation now, or else, what Mr. Riak, what do you think?
My recommendation to you would be that the advisory group appoints its own chair, because you've got a range of people now on this group, only two of which are council representatives. In fact, you don't know who these individual organisations are going to put up, so it would be an odd thing to try and appoint a chairman before you even know who's on the advisory group. So leave it to them.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, just seeking clarification on Councillor Reveley's comments that he hopes this group give clear direction to our staff. This group are actually giving suggestions to service delivery, are they not?
Yes. No further discussion? Well, the motion is Chair of Service Delivery and Asset Manager be appointed as council representatives on the Water Race Network Advisory Group. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. The final recommendation is inviting the bodies that we've nominated to appoint their representatives, to invite one representative. This was a recommendation
Through you,
originally.
Mr. Chairman, you will need to amend what is in front of you to include Fish and Bird and MHV.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Alternatively, Mr. Chairman, could I just move that invitations are sent to parties identified in the terms of reference, just to keep it simple?
Thank you.
I'm just fair.
Does that happen automatically under number 2 that we've, do we need to repeat the same thing, same members again?
No, my point is well, do we even have to say we're going to invite them? Is that just not a management issue that happens anyway?
Well, we've now appointed them, we've passed that, so...
Yeah, at this stage, we've approved who the membership are, and that last motion will be, we're inviting the people that we've decided to send a representative. Isn't that the way I read it?
Yes. Therefore, I'll second the Mayor's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Olmston. If you understand...
Actually thought I'd just withdrawn my motion, that I decided it was actually just a management issue, that it's going to happen automatically. So item 5 I suggest we don't bother with. It's going to happen automatically.
It'll happen. Yeah. Philippa said it's an administration thing, so it will actually follow up. Councillor Price?
Does beg the question, though, what happens to the membership of the committee if any of these organisations decline the invitation?
Mr. Riak, that's...
Well, let's cross the bridge when we get there, because I can't imagine that will be the outcome, personally. I think it's highly likely these organisations will want to be represented and will value the opportunity to have a contribution.
Councillor Reveley?
Okay, this is just an action of something that came from our service water strategy. We're asked to do something, and this we've already passed it, so this is one part of an action from an already passed plan. So there's not too much to do. We've been asked to do it, and it's happening.
I'd be very disappointed if any of the group decide not to come, but that's their prerogative. Councillor Bell?
Just to follow up with what Councillor Price have said, just in case one of the named groups here doesn't want to join, does that mean that you're going to get a couple instead of one to represent a certain group, or will stick to the same number?
No.
the way we would administer this through you, Mr Chairman, would be that the working group would have less number of members. We wouldn't say that someone else can have numbers to make it up.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Mr Chairman, if any members of the public or any interested groups wanted to come and talk to the working committee, that would be an option. They just have to apply to council to do so.
I believe it would be up to the group to decide whether they wanted to hear. They may want to themselves bring opinion in from somebody else, but that'll be up to the group. We can't dictate to them what they can or can't do.
Absolutely understand, but being a public organisation that we are, we can receive invitations if there was a desire and pass it on to the group.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Sure.
Councillor Brown?
When the group meet, will the meeting be in public, or will it be public excluded? Or can public sit in and listen if they want to?
I understood it would be a public meeting. Was that with the general?
I think with the bulk of their work absolutely should be. There may be from time to time information around the irrigation company infrastructure, for example, that they may wish to discuss in private with the advisory group. But that aside, I can't think of any other reason why these meetings would be public excluded.
Nothing further? Thank you, everybody. I'll declare this meeting closed. Hopefully. Got there, Philippa, this time.